Hello everyone, I am the Weather Dude. Welcome back, and today we are giving the latest update on major winter storm Gail. So without further ado, stay tuned for the whole video and let's get started. If you'd like staying up to date with the latest weather forecasts and updates, then please consider hitting the subscribe button below. Let's see how fast we can get to 2,000 subscribers. Also, to help this video's performance very much, please consider clicking the like button and sharing this video with your friends. Also, please consider watching the whole video. Thank you. Now let's get on with today's video. Now in my last video, I told you how much I really love snow, and to date, remember how I said for every like the video got 1% chance went up that I could see snow, and that video to date has 96 likes, so thank you, but not getting as much snow as expected, but thank you so much for the support anyway. But that does not mean, just because I'm not getting as much snow, does not mean I cannot talk about the storm, because this storm is still very important. It's still going to affect the I-95 in a very major way here, and especially areas north and west of I-95. So let's get into it here. We're going to get into a lot of models and a bunch of other maps as well. Wanted to start with the Weather Channel's forecast through Thursday. As you can see, I-95 becomes a dividing line, especially for Philly and DC. Although DC, the gradient has become a little wide, it's a bit of a looser, not as tight of a gradient for DC, meaning like the 1 to 3 zone has kind of expanded. So DC, that means there's probably some growing confidence that you're probably only going to see an inch or two, maybe 3 for DC, and that's probably, you know, by the time you get some rain mixed in with that, it might not be anything for DC. Philly, however, it's still pretty interesting. You guys are right on the cusp. Like, if this low ends up there's still so many things that could go on. I've had this happen with winter storms so many times. I've had this happen to me personally, where people, like, we tend to hype up the storm, then it gets downgraded, then it gets upgraded again. If this low were to track, you know, a few more miles offshore, 10, 25 miles offshore, or maybe if the temperatures were just a couple degrees colder, you know, stuff can still happen. All right, I just want to say that. That's why I see on the right here still snow totals could change depending on the track of the storm. Although what we're pretty confident on is that northeastern PA, northern Jersey, and southern and central and southern New York probably going to be the bullseye here. Going to the Weather Channel, 18 to 24 inches, but there have been plenty of models that call for well over 2 feet for these areas. I'm thinking over well over 2 feet for Mount Pocono as well. New York, 12 to 18. Boston's been upgraded. Now, before New England wasn't supposed to get much. Now Boston's going to get 12 to 18 now as well. All right, again, Philly right now looks like 5 to 8, but again, do we mix with rain? Do we just change to ice and sleet for a little bit? Or do we go over to actual rain? Again, models say a lot of different things. Pittsburgh's right on the line between 5 to 8 and 8 to 12, but east side of town probably closer to like 8 or 12. So now we're going to start to get into the models here. And again, these models could still change overnight, but we got the latest models here, starting with our GFS model. So GFS model, here comes the storm, all right? Coming in from the south and west. Now, for some reason, a lot of the more major models have it starting a bit later. So here we are, 2 p.m. It is snowing in Washington, D.C. All right, snow starts to make its way into Pittsburgh as well. But notice, again, for those I-95, you know, right in between Philly and Baltimore, you got your magentas here. If we get a very heavy band, I do believe that still, maybe on Wednesday, we could still end up with a lot of snow. It just depends on where the heavy banding sets up, in my opinion. You know, how could the low track a few more miles offshore? You know, could the temperatures be a little bit colder? Because temperatures are going to matter a lot as well. All right, and then, again, you also see some very heavy banding in northeastern Pennsylvania. The magentas is like your, like dark, like, all right, so here's how it kind of like pivotal weather kind of works. Light and medium-ish blues is like your light to moderate snow, obviously. Your dark blue is your heavy snow, but your magentas, that's like near, I can't really say blizzard, but near whiteout conditions, very, very heavy snow, right? And that's how it's going to look here, all right? And then, obviously, we still see some magentas as this moves north, all right? And we get our snow on the back side. So GFS model, how much snow with the latest model run? And again, this could change drastically still. I mean, we've been saying like Monday, Tuesday, we would kind of know what's going to happen. And we kind of know what's going to happen, but we still don't know yet. There is such a sharp gradient, especially from Philly to Baltimore. There is such a sharp gradient. Like, look at Baltimore according to the GFS model, 1 inch, right? In northeast is actually a town in Maryland, by the way. Northeast Maryland will be seeing 16 inches according to the GFS model, but Baltimore, not too far away, mind you, 1. So there was such a sharp gradient. So if this sets up slightly different, we can see a whole different scenario here. Let's go on down 95 here with the GFS model. Boston, they're calling for 15 inches around there. New York, 17. Philly, about 12 or 13. I know someone in my last video in the comments was asking about Bensalem, probably around between 10 and 11. But again, you go a few miles to the south and east, and you might have to cut those in by more than half. All right, I would say Wilmington, probably 11 inches. All right, and then Baltimore, about an inch, and DC, 4 inches, which is actually surprising that DC is more. But then you get into northeastern Pennsylvania, and we're talking about close to 2 feet, which I'm surprised GFS doesn't call for more than 2 feet, but still 22 inches for Scranton and Mount Pocono. That honestly makes me a bit jealous. So if you happen to be from Mount Pocono, go hit the summit. I mean, it's going to be great, fresh powder, fake powder. It's a great combination. All right, our next model is the high-resolution model, and this model has been very interesting. It's a very reliable model, especially for short-term events. All right, and I definitely like looking at this model a lot. So they do have the snow starting, all right, probably for Washington, Baltimore, probably between like maybe around 12 or 1 o'clock or somewhere around there. Yeah, DC about noon. I'd say Baltimore probably gets started around 1 o'clock. Philly probably 2 o'clock, and New York probably starting, according to this, at 5 p.m. But again, you can barely see it, but you see these magentas, right? You see these tiny areas of magentas. This is your really heavy snow, guys. I just want to say that magentas is your very heavy snow, but if you get those very bright pinks, that's like top of the line. You know, it's hard to get much worse than magenta. Let's put it that way on Pivotal Weather. All right, and look at these magentas that's set up right near Philly. All right, and this is what we're talking about. But still, nonetheless, there's going to be very heavy snow. Now, high resolution model is interesting because instead of being like the other models and flipping, you know, Philly and much of Delaware and Jersey, actually, instead of flipping them over to rain, there's actually like a quiet spot of no precipitation, all right? And as a snow lover talking here, if I were able to choose between going from snow to rain or going from snow to no precip to back to snow, I would choose the second option because at least, you know, if it's not snowing, at least the snow won't be melting that fast, right? As opposed to if it was raining. All right, then on the back side of the low, we'll see there is a few showers. That rain snow line at this point gets pushed way far north and west. All right, this is overnight, but once that low moves back towards the east, maybe we can get something on the backside. But this model doesn't really put so much snow on the backside like the other models do, although it is a bit more, you know, giving in terms of snow potential for Philly and still northeastern PA. Even though I don't see any magentas for right now, still dark blue still means very heavy snow. This is going to be a very serious storm. We got some very cool maps, so definitely consider staying tuned to the end as well. All right, snow totals for the high resolution model here. All right, they are a bit lower. If you were to look at, this is the 18Z model run, by the way. They do like model runs every hour, but I have to do 18Z. I have no choice because this is the only one that goes out far enough. All right, if you looked at 12Z model run from earlier today, they were calling for like 12 inches for like Philly area. Probably 8 inches for them. Northern Pennsylvania, I would say that's your 12 to 18 zone. I think we could. Model's been saying a couple feet. At first, I thought that was bullish, but it might actually happen. All right, again, depending on where that banding sets up. I say this a lot, but it's true. All right, Winter Storm Gail is a very interesting winter storm. And this just got done. This is hitting Oklahoma City. It already just hit Oklahoma City now, and it's on its way to the northeast. Boston, 15 inches in the forecast for you. New York, around 8 or 9. Philly, around 8. Wilmington, around 7. Baltimore, I would say around 6 or 7. And D.C., probably, well, it depends. South side of the capital, 2 inches, but on the north side, maybe 4 or 5. So, it's like literally, so you guys know what I'm talking about here by tight gradient. The track of the low is going to matter. Your temperatures fluctuating by a couple degrees could make a difference. All right, in terms, like, at least for me, my forecast is starting off with a few hours of snow, maybe like 6 or 7 hours starting off with snow on Wednesday. Then overnight, majority of overnight, it goes to sleet and a mix and even rain for a few hours and then back to snow briefly for a couple of hours and then it's done. So I honestly don't know how to feel about that. As a snow lover, I don't really know how to feel about that. Again, very tight gradient. Things can still change. I'm just giving the latest update for you guys. We're going to have to see how this plays out. European model. European model is up next. All right. And again, snow is starting to come in around 2 p.m. Washington, Baltimore, not quite in Philly yet. Pittsburgh is starting to get hit at this point. Allentown, Lehigh Valley. All right, it's starting to trickle in. Lehigh Valley, though, I would say a bit later in the day. But you can still see some flurries. But look at the rain snow line by 8 p.m. It's literally just south of Philly, just south of Wilmington, just north of Baltimore and DC. All right, and that's kind of like where your rain snow line starts setting up. And notice the magentas. Oh, I thought actually yellow might be good to use here. All right, but the magentas all set up over like West Virginia, Maryland border. We got central southern Pennsylvania in those magentas as well. All right, but then the European model is a bit disappointing because now my opinion, European model is a great model, but I really don't think this is going to happen. They put the low over the Chesapeake Bay, which in my opinion is way too far off. All right, because if you look, there's also a low pressure center off the coast here, which I think this is where the low is actually going to be. I mean, they say it in the model themselves. You can see the circulation here. All right, but if the European model ends up being correct and the low is this far inland from Philly to DC, I gotta say it's not looking good for you guys. But honestly, New York and Boston have just recently been upgraded to winter storm warnings. Philly is in it somehow, all right, and barely just on the line. And Baltimore and Washington are not. But you can see where the magenta is set up with the European model, northern Pennsylvania, northeastern Pennsylvania, and that's where the heaviest snow sets up. But at least the European model does have some snow on the backside, both for I-95 and inland Pennsylvania and New York as well. So snowfall totals with the European model, again, probably a couple of feet, like I was mentioning, 2 to 3 feet, although sticking more closer to the 2 feet side rather than 3, but still technically 2 to 3 feet for northern Pennsylvania. Not so much for southern New York, actually. I mean, 8 inches, 9 inches for Albany, but it's really got to go down to Poughkeepsie, maybe 15 inches. We have Boston a little bit less, actually, which is also surprising. 9 inches for you, according to the European. New York, 15 inches is possible. Philly, around 8. Wilmington, around 8 as well. Baltimore, it's like right in between 5 and 8 inches. And Washington, probably around a few inches for you as well. And then back towards Pittsburgh, maybe, again, just like the Weather Channel was kind of saying, right on the border between like 8 and like 12 inches. So nonetheless, this is going to be still a very, significant storm, but especially for people along that I-95 from Philly to DC, it's really not going to be what it was like supposed to be. New York, New York, you're going to get your fulfilled snow, even Boston as well. All right, Boston may not see as much. Like the reason Boston might not see as much snow, and they are expected to get a lot, but the reason they may not end up seeing as much is because of the track of the low is not tracking quite close enough. But they still end up getting a lot of snow. The reason places like Philly, Baltimore, and DC are not getting snow is because of the rain. All right, so I'd honestly rather be in Boston's situation. All right, and we're on to the NAM model now. Now, at first, the NAM model was being really, actually bullish, but not in the way you would think they would be bullish. Because normally they, say more snow for everybody, but they weren't exactly like that. They took all the snow, basically, and all the way inland. Like, basically nothing for the I-95 corridor, and most of the snow was actually inland. All right, and I think they kind of corrected themselves since. You can kind of notice last second they made some changes. But still, dark blue rain snow line for right now, this is at 5 p.m., is still south of Philly, right on Baltimore, and DC at this point is actually already over the rain. So DC, you may only be snowing for a couple of hours. So personally, if this ends up being correct, if you live in DC, the second it starts snowing, go out there if you can, because you got to enjoy it while it's still falling, because it may not be lasting too long. All right, and then, again, dark blue is still in play here for Pennsylvania, for Jersey, even the northern tip of Delaware as well. All right, but the low is offshore. Keep that in mind, right? Like, this could be, model errors happen all the time. This could end up being right, or keep in mind the low is offshore by not much, but quite a bit. So there is a chance that, again, temperatures get a couple degrees lower. It can certainly happen. But again, nonetheless, once you get on the back side of that low, as you can see, cold air is already wrapping around a place like New York, Connecticut, going to get a lot of snow here as well. All right, and then Thursday morning, you can see there's the snow still wrapping around the backside. I think we're really going to have a good idea what's going to happen when you wake up Wednesday morning. You look at the morning time model runs, and that's when you probably are going to know what's going to happen by that point, because honestly, there is still uncertainty because of that such tight gradient. I think personally that there's still some uncertainty. All right. Now, as much as I am a snow lover, I am not biased of snow in any of my forecasts. All right. As much as I love it, I cannot be biased because that would not be right, honestly. So, again, we do have to consider the fact that, yes, I-95 may drop out of the snow a little bit, but for sure, if you live in the Jersey Beach, the Delaware Beach, Chesapeake Bay, for sure you guys are probably not going to get much snow. You may start as snow briefly, or you may even briefly end as snow, but you guys are going to be mainly rain down there, sadly. Boston, 14 or 15 inches. Now, NAM is pretty interesting. Well, they've always been such an interesting model because they do call for 15 for Boston, but they kind of leave New York in the dust a little bit. Like only 6 to 8 for New York, but yet they actually put more snow, 10 inches for Philly, 11 for Wilmington, and then less, obviously, a couple inches for Baltimore and D.C. So that's interesting. They kind of leave out New York a little bit. All right, and then again, you got your 12 to 24, basically from the West Virginia mountains to central Pennsylvania, southern New York, and then in through southern New England. But overall, their model has corrected themselves. They not as inaccurate as they first were when they were tracking the storm, without a doubt. All right, so next model is RDPS. I believe this is also, if you were to go to the models, this is a Canadian model like the GDPS model. I think it's more of like a higher not like high resolution, but another version of the Canadian model. It is, in fact, a Canadian model. So starting off here, 2 p.m. Again, Philly, it's just entering your location. We got Baltimore. We have D.C. in the snow here. All right, and it does continue, right? But you can already see the rain snow lines already lifting north. The low gets closer. And again, you got some magenta setting up over central Pennsylvania. Where that banding happens is definitely where we could see some of the more heavier snowfall totals. And if you're one of those places that's expected to change into rain, pray that you get one very heavy snow band right before you change over. That way you'll have some insurance in case the rain tries to take it all away. But still, heavy snow over northern Pennsylvania, honestly. And then we do kind of, I mean, these models now are like the low is going right over Maryland, right over Delaware, right over New Jersey. And if the low goes right over land here, it's going to be hard for it to snow. It is going to be really hard for it to snow in these areas. But for you guys in northeastern PA and southern New York, where I feel like, even though we've been in the snow drought, I feel like these areas don't need the snow because they're in the mountainous. Like, I'm sure I-95 would much rather, appreciate this most of the snow. And then you get on the backside, and then we get some wraparound snow. But up in southern New England coastline, still heavy snow up there as well. Snowfall totals with the RDPS model, yeah, they're a bit slack off, actually. All right, we got 12, 13 inches for Boston, around 11 for New York, 6 for Philly, not even 5 for Wilmington, a couple inches for Baltimore, and an inch or 2 for D.C. And then your 12 to 24 plus, again, in those same areas. So, like, central and northeastern Pennsylvania, southern New York, western Mass, like, all the models pretty much say at this point, anywhere from 12 to 24. So you guys are probably going to get a lot of it. Unless, again, if the track does shift a little bit southeast, not like all this won't shift to the 95 probably. All right, but if this track does move south, yes, there is still a chance I-95 could get in on a bit more snow. But, like, honestly, when I'm looking at these weather forecasts here, stuff is changing by the minute. So don't let the storm down too quickly, right? Don't let your hopes go too low. If we look at the NWS from Mount Holly, snowfall totals, again, so mainly rain probably for southeastern Maryland, central southern Delaware, as well as the Jersey Shore. Although Toms River may see a brief inch before on the back side of the front side of the storm. So again, like I said, mainly rain, but possibly starting or ending as snow or sleep and mainly rain. But notice, basically from Trenton to Philly to Wilmington, this is your very sharp gradient, meaning that a slight bump in the track, whether it's 10 miles, whether it's 50 miles, could really have an impact on your snow totals, for the worse or for the better. All right. And then in that same zone, this pink area, mostly snow and sleet. All right. And then obviously well to the north, northern Jersey, northeastern PA is your mainly snow region. All right. So we have I'm sure you've seen this if you watched my channel from last winter, you probably do realize this. But this is a relatively new product from the NWS. It's basically the Winter Storm Severity Index. And I used to be under major impacts. I'm not anymore. All right. Northern Jersey, eastern PA, northern western parts of Maryland, northeastern West Virginia. You have your major impacts with extreme impacts for some few splotchy areas in eastern PA and northern Jersey. Again, Washington to Baltimore, you're in the minor, while Wilmington to Philly probably in the more moderate impact. New York is in the major impact zone. And then Boston also sitting in moderate. So I'm surprised maybe if they do update this again, maybe Boston could actually maybe be added to major because they could get more of the snow. And you can look at this for overall. You can look at this in terms of snow amounts, right? You can look at it through ice accumulation as well. Again, most of the ice, you can tell where most of the ice is probably going to be. Then definitely in Virginia and North Carolina as well. Also, you can look at flash freeze, meaning like the very quick freeze, mainly due to standing water. All right, that's your flash freeze. Again, yeah, potential impact from rapid decrease in temperature. Then you got blowing snow. Now, blowing snow, I feel like not going to be an issue for I-95, except maybe Philly might have an issue with blowing snow actually because of the city. It does generate more wind in the city, so maybe, but New York definitely has a bigger threat of that, even towards Allentown as well. I mean, there could be blowing snow out in the open field as well, but it also can happen more in the city. Ground blizzard is just when the snow, like the snow that's already on the ground, combined with more wind. That's basically a ground blizzard. It's happened to me before, and I love it. All right, so that's from the NWS here. And then finally, for windy.com here, European model wind gusts. Winds could still be very strong, and really, I think the only thing we can guarantee it's going to come out of the storm, to those of you that get hit, the one guaranteed thing you're all going to have, no matter your precip type, is going to be the wind. Without a doubt, no matter what, you guys are going to get strong winds in order of 30, 40, even over 50, 55 miles an hour at times. It's definitely going to happen. That, without a doubt, we could pretty much say, unless the storm magically dissipates. I have a GFS model. You can see 38, 40, even up through New York, 40-mile-an-hour winds. So it's going to be a windy day. We can say that without a doubt. So thank you guys for watching this latest update here with Major Winter Storm Gail. A bit of a longer upload today, a little bit later release, but definitely think this is an update. Was really worth updating it on you guys. So stay safe out there. Hopefully, cross your fingers, more snow. And I'm the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I'll catch you guys in the next video.